before we get started with Coach, just a reminder about the game. It's 1 p.m. on Sunday afternoon on ESPNU. We'll get an opening statement from Coach, and then we'll open it up for some questions after that. Coach.
Good afternoon, everybody. Quick analysis of our last game. After reviewing the video, I really like how we attacked in the second half of the game against Tech. We ran a little bit more, had better spacing on offense. Our shot selection is still inconsistent, but we'll continue to get better at having good shot selection. But defensively, what I saw in the last 10 minutes of the game, that's what we're trying to go defensively. Pressure on the ball, changing defenses, rebounding the basketball, steals. We just had a ton of energy in our defense in the last 10 minutes of the game. We didn't execute. In the last 50 seconds, we gave up an offensive rebound out of our zone. That's correctable, and we didn't do a good job on what I'm calling a home run play when they only had a second and a half to try to get up a shot. We didn't execute well in that situation, but we've reviewed it, a lot of correctable errors, and I know our guys are excited about getting back to practice on today so that we can continue to get better. In terms of an injury update on one guy specific, Braxton Key will participate in the non-contact part of our practice on today and tomorrow based on how he recovers.
Thank you, Coach. We'll go ahead and start back left with Cecil.
Hey, Coach, I have two. One about the last game and one about the next game. It looked like when John came out of the game, he was a little bit frustrated on the bench. Have you talked to him about it? Is that just part of the growing process for a young player? What was his situation?
Yeah, just growing process, and it was basically my decision on what lineups we thought could best give us a chance to win.
Have you talked to him about?
We talked to all of our players every day about different situations. You know, I talked to Dejon and Colin at halftime. I was disappointed with how they responded after failure in the first half, and I told them that our standards are higher, so we challenged them at halftime, and boy, they came out and had an amazing second half. I talked to Alex Reese at halftime about being ready. We may need you in this game, and he came out and played extremely well in the second half. So we talked to all of our guys, Cecil, about a lot of different situations, whether it's on the court, off the court. We're in constant communication with them during the game, after games, before practice, after practice. We worked with Dejon on his free throws after practice, and it seemed to have paid dividends for us. As you can tell, he's changed his routine. He's breathing a lot better, and he's got a lot of positive imagery in his mind before he shoots the free throw.
And then on to Central Florida. I'm sure at some point in the NBA you played against Yao Ming, Sean Bradley, those 7'4", 7'5".
I coached Sean Bradley.
I coached Sean. How do you handle guys like that on the offensive and defensive ends of the floor?
Well, I think the first thing is you want to try to play your style of basketball without any hesitation, but at the same time, you're dealing with a different type of a player here when you're 7'6", and you basically have a 10-foot. When you raise your hands, you can touch the rim flat-footed. So when you drive to the basket, you have to be aware of where he is. He's a great shot blocker, good position player, but you can't run from him either. You got to take the ball, you got to be strong with the basketball. The guys that he's guarding, when he comes over to support defensively, they can't hide, and they have to make strong decisions when they get the basketball. We got to do a good job of running in transition both ways, trying to get in front of him if we're on offense and get in front of him if we're on defense to try to limit his deep catches in the post, because once he catches the ball near the basket, he's almost unguardable.
Go to the right side here, Chandler.
But a lot of those guys like Sean Bradley and Yao Ming, hopefully the guys that they're guarding can also make some shots and try to draw them away from the basket a little bit. So those are the things that we talked about.
Now, you sort of mentioned it after the Tech game. Daniel's fallen into foul trouble a lot these first few games. What have you seen from his play through the first 5 games? And do you still think it's correctable stuff that you guys can fix with him defensively?
Yeah. I think the primary reason is our guards are not defending the dribble as well as we need to defend the dribble, because when teams get inside of our defense, our bigs, instinctively, they're going to come over and support. And when he's come over to support, he's been out of position a little bit, which is correctable, but our guards have to do a much better job because they can't rely on our big guys like Daniel and Dante and Galen and those guys to block every shot. I think we're second. I know it's a small sample, but after 7 games, I think we're second in the SEC in terms of shot blocking. It's not just because we have great shot blockers, it's because the amount of attempts they have to block shots is very high. It's almost too high.
Back right, Alex.
Kind of along the same lines about Daniel's, foul trouble early. You've had the same lineup to really start every game this year. The 2 bigs. I know in a game like this where you have a 7-6 guy, have you all debated, or talked amongst your staff about possibly going to a more guard-heavy lineup or changing things up?
Absolutely. We have had that discussion, and we've played in a lot of games here early in the season where you're not playing against a traditional back-to-the-basket 4-man. The whole league or college basketball has changed just like the NBA. You're playing against these hybrid 4 guys, and I've been knowing A.J. Davis all his life. So he's another one of those hybrid guys that's, 6'7.5", 6'8", can put the ball on the floor, he hasn't made a lot of threes, but he can shoot the 3. So yes, we've had those discussions, and we've addressed it a lot at halftime when we've changed our lineup. But we've talked about it.
Front right, Ryder.
How would you assess the interior play on the offensive end this year compared to last season?
In terms of just finishing inside, I think Dante was one of the key reasons we won our last game. We were able to throw him the ball inside. He made some terrific moves and just being a threat. We think, Galen Smith is an awfully good low post player. And, with limited attempts, Daniel has been, pretty efficient down there overall when he can stay in the game. Alex Reese has some floaters inside. Dejan can play with his back to the basket, but specific to your question, our big guys, I think we have to do a better job of throwing them the ball when they're open. There's been a number of times when they've been open and we haven't made on-time, on-target passes, and they have to do a better job of being a threat when they are open. And sometimes it all boils down to timing. Sometimes we're in there too soon, and then we have to get out when we're ready to make the pass because our timing's off. So hopefully we can time it better, and our guards will make the appropriate pass.
Stand on the right side, Tony.
With Braxton potentially coming back in the near future, what have you learned from the young guys that have had to step in his absence? What have you learned from there, getting to see them in extra minutes?
Well, we've always talked, Tony, about versatility, and Alex talked about us starting 2 bigs. Well, we've had lineups where we've had 2 bigs in there together, whether it's Daniel and Dante or even Galen and Dante. But we've also, we're able to go small at the 4 position. Was really hurt us when Riley and Braxton were out at the same time because we are counting on Riley to play some minutes for us at 4, Hurd play some minutes for us at 4. We have a lineup where we can go really small and maybe play Reese at 5 and 4 smaller guys around him. So we have a lot of versatility this year, and we think that's one of the strengths of our team.
Jump over to the left side, Charlie.
You mentioned their big man, but what do you tell your team about the rest of their team when you're breaking down film study?
The main thing is A.J. Davis can beat you, and he's so versatile. They didn't start Griffin in the last game, but he can get hot from behind the 3, and Terrell Allen is a good-looking young point guard that can play really good out of pick and rolls, and and this is a really good defensive team, outstanding defensive team. So what we tell them is we got to have maximum effort on multiple possessions. Sometimes we'll have maximum effort when we get a little bit concerned about losing the game instead of having that effort from the start, but also smart maximum effort. We can't afford to have 3 or 4 fouls in the first minute or two of the game like we've consistently had. We got to do a better job of playing smarter, staying out of the bonus early, but knowing that we're going to have to execute on offense against a really good defensive team, because in our last game you saw there were times in maybe for 5, 6, or 7 consecutive possessions where we shot the ball quickly, contested shot, or we didn't even make one pass. That's not our style of play, and it won't work against Central Florida.
Time for a couple more questions, starting in the back right with Alex.
2 questions real quick. You mentioned A.J. Davis a couple times. You said you've known him for a while. Can you give us some background on your relationship?
Son of Antonio Davis, former NBA player. So just, growing up, kids around the same age, and, going on trips and, different charity events, and you bring your kids, and, he's a young guy running around and 3 or 4 years old, and my kids are about the same age, and now, these situations make me feel old.
And could there be a benefit with a guy like Riley playing at 4 in a situation when you are maybe at a size disadvantage, with 2 or 3 guys that they have out there? What can he bring as far as that goes? I mean, he's 6'7", he's not small.
It's really, even though I mentioned it with Riley and Braxton, I think with our team this year, if you want to call him a 4, that's okay, but we have guys that we can play across the forward positions. So there have been times where Herb's guarded a guy like AJ, or Hervey when he was here from UT Arlington. Dejan's guarded him. Riley will guard them. We can put one of our bigger guys. Galen is an underrated defender of these type of players, those hybrid 4-men. So we just think across the board, we have some options on guys that can guard some of these versatile forwards, including Riley.
Last question will be over here on the left, Matt.
Yeah, just going off that same note, how much does it help, I guess, to have a guy like Riley or maybe even Alex Reese or Herb that can kind of stretch the floor with their perimeter game when you have guards like you do that can get to the rim so easily?
Yeah, that's a great question. And we not only have guards that can get to the rim, you saw the way Dejan took the ball coast to coast and scored or broke down the defense, and now we have Dejan and Colin. AJ gets to the basket, and a lot of times those guys draw double teams. And if you can have guys like Riley and Reese spread the floor and stretch the floor for us, that makes us a much more effective offensive team by giving our guys that can drive and get in the paint driving lanes, and because they draw so much attention. And when you have guys at the 1, 2, and 3, and 4 position that can all shoot the 3, all right, they're not all shooting a high percentage, but they all are capable 3-point shooters. Hopefully that makes you a little bit harder to guard, and your production offensively can continue to improve. I think if we continue to take quality shots at the right time and make our shots, and shoot free throws and make free throws like we did, especially in the second half of our last game, then our points per possession is going to increase, and we'll be a much more efficient offensive team, and hopefully our defense will catch up, because our defense is a little bit behind right now.
Thank you, Coach.
Okay, thanks.